Welcome, folks. Episode 646, the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse, coming your way. You can catch us 8 o'clock in the UK, 12 o'clock Pacific time in the United States. And you can also get in on more of the fun. Patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. Get you into that infamous Boxing Nutters Messenger group and some other goodies as well. Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody who is a part of that, and like to thank everybody hopping in with us today. It was an interesting night last night. I don't know how many people actually saw it. The arena, the ticket sales were dismal. Yeah, something around. I think somebody told me there were ringside seats for Smith versus Matias for as little as $250. Friend of ours, friend of the pod, Joe Kennedy, got 40 cents on the dollar for his tickets because he took ill and had to get rid of them. And then all those people, the probably hundreds of thousands who bought it on payperview.com at the low price of $54.95.
I think you're right with hundreds. Just take off the thousands part. I actually may have
So,
purchased that last night.
I'll be honest with you, though. It's a shame for those who haven't seen it yet because it was actually a damn fun fight. Matias is rarely in a boring one of those. And Dalton Smith just pouring on, landing hard shots. Matias coming back, definitely visibly hurting Dalton Smith at certain times. I think at the end of the fourth, specifically, he seemed to kind of crumble a little bit there, but he would not be denied. Lands two smoking right hands on Matias, staggers him, pushes him back. Matias, the stupid drug cheating motherfucker that he is, says, I'll just put my hands up, come in and throw a punch instead of, holding, keeping the space, giving yourself a minute. One more right hand, maybe a little bit towards the back of the head, but who fucking cares? And Matias goes down, gets up. Ref deems he's in no state to continue. And the reign of the drug cheat, Subriel Matias, is over at the hands of Dalton Smith. But fuck me, it helps when you're only 10 days into the new year, Justin. But, go ahead and take your victory lap. You called Smith, and right now, this is the clear fight of the year front runner.
Well, I feel like when I said Smith, I was shut down pretty hard. That nobody agreed and heavily said that, not heavily, but nobody was feeling what I was feeling when I said it a couple weeks ago. But I knew it.
The more I thought about it, Justin, I'm like, he was on something. He looked shit the last couple rounds against Cuello. He's in his mid-30s. He's been getting punched in the head repeatedly. I started leaning with you.
I always liked Dalton Smith because he won me $150 a few months when he fought whoever he knocked out, Pedraza, whoever that was with a body shot a year or two ago. But the funny thing is I was like you. I just couldn't understand why people were so on him as if he was the same guy he was, or he hadn't cheated, or he hadn't looked like shit. I didn't get it. Dalton Smith was young. He was hungry. He's not a world beater by no means. But, like you just said, Matias has looked like shit his last two fights. The fight he lost, he looked like shit. He's gone to war with below average guys that Dalton Smith is better than, and he went to war with them. You remember the guy he went to war with was his last, not the last fight, the fight before that.
He got staggered in that one,
that was
round or something.
That was a dog fight. He doesn't have the same punch resistance, like you said. He's in his 30s, and everybody that fights like he does, you're going to crumble. That never lasts. You cannot fight your whole career by using your head as your defense and hope that he bullies people. He hopes that he wears them down and that they stop because they can't handle his pace. But Smith last night decided, hey, I can take his punches. I can handle this pace. And he just started going at him. But what pissed me off last night more than anything else was the announcers. They might as well got on their knees and just sucked him off every round. They were acting like Matias was the they acted like he was a top 10 pound for pound, that he had never lost, that he was untouchable, that he had this invincible Terminator style that Dalton Smith – because I think the main announcer was like, well, my prediction is Smith will quit. He'll definitely quit. He was already saying Smith was not going to lose, but was going to quit before, because Matias is so great, you can't handle his greatness, that Smith was just going to quit on his stool or quit in the ring. All the announcers kept saying, oh, this style, this is what he wants. He wants to do this. Dalton Smith is an idiot. He shouldn't be fighting this fight. Matias is not that great. He's not. He's a bully. If you go back and watch his fight, every fight he wins is because he uses his face and he can take a punch, which we already come to find out that was because he was on some shit. I guarantee he's been on shit his whole career.
Yeah,
He finally just got caught, and he got stopped. And Dalton Smith, a perfect shot right. It was kind of like not right behind the head, but it was like right behind the ear, is where he caught him with. And Dalton Smith, that's the way you win a title. That is the effing way you win a title. You go in there in front of his 80 fans. I guess you wouldn't have thousands of fans. In front of the 200 some people that showed up, in front of all the announcers that kept saying you were going to quit, that you had no business being in there basically with him. That they might as well just come out and say that Dalton Smith had no business being in that ring with a legend like Matias. When he become this great, I don't freaking fucking know. But that was awesome. Dalton Smith, his fans celebrating, all the Sheffield Wednesday doing the chants. Eddie Hearn had to be the first man in the ring, which I don't know how he catapulted everybody and he was the first one in the ring. But
well, there weren't a whole lot of people in the crowd to get in his way.
I'm sure the security had like 2 people for security. When you only got like 60 people, you don't have to hire a lot of security.
And they're never looking at the white guy in the suit. They're like just like staring down brown people, just looking for a reason.
But that was awesome.
Comes Eddie in his suit, like da 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 da.
That was awesome, though.
Yeah, it was a good time, and it's nice to see when fighters really appreciate it. And Smith is one of them, fighter with his old man teams. And Des, it was kind of cool hearing Smith's dad as he got in the ring and he brought his old man in there too, and they were talking about all the different titles that Dalton won on the way to this victory. Des, every amateur title, the area Commonwealth, European, and here we are. He took all the steps, and it was you just got to feel good for him. That's the thing. It's like we might have had our ideas on how it would have gone before the fight, but none of that had to do with the quality of Dalton Smith as a person or anything like that. It just seems like some really good blue collar folks got one.
Yeah, and I think for his father, Grant, I think that's his own personal moment of validation. It kind of validates everything he's ever thought about his son, because there'd have been times on this journey where he thought, "Are we going to get there?" I'm talking, are we going to get out the amateurs? Are we going to win this national title? Are we going to win these area belts? Are we going to win that world title? And when they got given the assignment, you've got to go out to the Barclays in Brooklyn. You've got to fight a Puerto Rican in New York, and he's a puncher, and he's a world champion. And when you arrive, the press, the broadcaster, the promoter, the fans, they'll all be looking down their nose at you, because you are, to coin the Ken Buchanan phrase when he fought Ishmael Laguna in Puerto Rico, you are the patsy. You've been brought over here to get knocked up and knocked about. That's massive validation for Grant, and I'm really pleased he's got it. He's worked incredibly hard on his son. And as a father myself, you have moments in your life with your children, you think, wow, it's an absolute pleasure to be your parent. And last night, Grant would have definitely have had that. He's probably had many nights like that. But last night was the cherry on the cake that will never ever be taken from him. And something Justin said, and I want us to make this point, because there's a lot of people talk about the tickets Dalton doesn't sell and the crowd he can't pull. And we're probably still talking about that last night, to be honest. And there's been an awful lot of treading water for Dalton. But Justin said it. If you're going to win a title, that's how you bleed and do it. On the road, against the puncher, against a world champion, you walk through fire, you have scary moments, you turn a fight around and you stop him. That, for me, was an outstanding win for Dalton Smith. You have your Emma Raducanu's who turn up at the US Open. You have your Gareth Bales against everybody, comes on in a Euro final and scores an overhead kick. You have these moments in sport. And last night, Dalton Smith stepped up. And I'm here for that. That's what I need from boxing. That's what I love about boxing. A kid that I don't know, I've got no association with, can do that for me. And I think, wow, you're a little hero last night. He was fantastic. I loved the way he started last night. He come out and he got his distance and his measure spot on. But I did think there was a chance that Matisse was looking at him and just having a look. And in rounds 2 and 3, I thought, I need to see a bit more of you, Dalton. I need you not to be bullied here. And I need you to start being a little bit ugly. And there's 2 things I liked from Dalton Smith last night. It's a brilliant plan from Grant, and it was executed brilliantly by Dalton. Whenever I can keep it long, I'm going to get a jab going. And the minute he steps, I'm going to hit him with a right hand. And that's what he did. But whenever Dalton found himself in Matias's circle around his feet, he let his hands go and held. And that's to stop a mixing scenario. He didn't want to get caught in a mixer with a puncher. And I'm really, really impressed by the way he boxed to such strict orders. And he nearly got a point taken off him. And there was boos in the crowd, but he said, stuff it. This is how I'm going to get through this one. And it was a hard round 2, 3, and 4. And I agree with Dan Raphael. In round 5, I thought Dalton was having a bit of a hard time of it. But Dalton's one of these guys that his body language and his body language game isn't as good as Matisse's. Matisse was like made of stone, stony face, no emotion. But just in that moment, when he landed him 2 big right hands, you could see that he was gone. He was struggling with the pace. He was fatigued. He wasn't holding a shot very well. And everything that Dalton did last night, when he's in the pocket, punch and hold. When he's at distance, get off with a good jab. When he has to, throw the big right hand over the top, land behind the ear, make it ugly. There's a lot of people in this chat, just myself included really, we was never around in 1970 when Ken Buchanan beat Ishmael Laguna. But I think of all the time of boxing I have seen, and I've followed Ken's career after it happened, and I've followed an awful lot of fighters from this country, that to me might be the purest of wins because nobody saw it coming. I know Justin quite rightly fancied Smith, and there's a lot of people in our chat that thought the nearer this fight gets, the more we like it. But last night in rounds 2, 3, and 4, Smith had his work cut out, and he'd done something that only good fighters do. And I'm really, really pleased for him. And I think British boxing, us on this pod, we really needed that last night. I think that was sensational, and what he'd done was outstanding.
Well, as much as boxing fans were really stacking up, behind Matias, I would have to say it probably like a 9 out of 10 clip, somewhere probably in there in predictions. Smith was only like paying 3-2 as an underdog. I mean, he wasn't that short. Like the odds makers saw more than the public saw in this one, and sometimes it's the other way around. But on this one, they were trying to tell us something, and we just didn't listen. A lot of us.
And I agree, but there was so much to this in terms of Dalton was probably brought in to get beat. Dalton had to travel. He had to fight he had to go against the puncher who had the world title. There wasn't a lot of people in Dalton's corner in the arena last night. Dalton and his dad and his promoter, they was pretty much standing alone, I think. And it was one of them fantastic nights for British boxing because I really hope Eddie Hearn don't put him in lukewarm water now like he did with Kell Brook when he picked up the IBF title against Sean Porter. I really hope Eddie keeps Dalton at the upper end at 140, which I think is the new division. I think it's the new 47. There's a lot of talent in that.
I think we need to see him versus Adam Azim here soon.
I mean, now just hold on there for a minute. That would be a really good domestic fight, but there's some huge fights out there as well. And as much as Dalton and Adam Azim would work for me, you, Justin, the guys in the chat, and the people that really follow boxing. Like there'd be a lot of people in New York last night that become Dalton Smith fans. He really boxed well, and I want Eddie to really, I want him to really harvest this momentum now. Dalton's a world-class fighter. He done incredibly well last night, and I think he only gets better. And I think there's a lot of good kids at 140, and I think this is a chance where Dalton could, go and have 2, 3 really big fights. And I'm not saying that the Azim fight can't happen, But I think they said it in the ring last night. We've got options now, and if you want to come to the table, it's something we can talk about. But
They're
don't
going to get a
hold
soft
up.
touch
Don't.
somewhere down the ratings for the next one.
Well,
Like that's for
well,
sure.
that's
Homecoming,
the
that's
other.
a little
Yeah,
bit weird.
you got to have a homecoming, at least one.
Well, you can have a homecoming, but I don't want to see a homecoming like Kell Brook had. There's got to be a
No,
middle ground
no,
here.
no.
You know what I mean?
You
That's
want
what
to
I'm
fight a
trying to
decent
say.
guy.
Yeah, we can have a homecoming, but don't slow this down. Don't stick him in lukewarm water. This kid can fight, and that win, it's going to take an awful lot to top that this year from anyone. That was brilliant. So I want it to be managed really well because I think in Dalton Smith, Sheffield's got something, and the rest of Britain can jump on that. Last
It's
night we
just
needed that in British boxing.
it's just such a stacked division though. Like,
It is.
and again, it's hard to measure this win because like again, Matias was a compromised measuring stick. Like the test comes out, you have all sorts of questions about what he might have been doing, and also one of those things that we didn't even talk about is as far as trying to break this down, and you looking back, you're like maybe this stuff like this matters. You have something like that happen in the middle of your training camp. How's your training camp look after that? You know,
Mm.
there's a lot. So there's a lot going against Matias there, and this is just a talent-rich division. Richardson Hitchens is going in against Oscar Duarte, and he should be able to outbox him outside of maybe Duarte landing one massive left hook. But you never know. Oscar Duarte can bang. But I don't, this Hitchinson against or Hitchens against Smith. Got to favor Hitchens in that one. The winner of Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson,
Go
got
for
to
that one.
favor them against him.
Go for that. Go for that.
You think?
We
Just get the
yeah,
payday?
yeah. No, but Matty, we've got to run this down the line. We're not interested in the Jake Pauls and the Anthony Joshua's type fights. So let's go for it. Let's have one of our own, Dalton Smith against arguably a top 10 kid. And he's earned the right to do that.
Well, whoever wins that
I
fight
think to
isn't
say that.
arguably top 10. They just are top 10,
No, what I said was that Lopez and Shakur, they're both two top 10 kids. They're both
Oh,
in that
yeah,
argument. So let's put Dalton Smith on the back of last night. Go on, and if you can't get the Azim fight straight away, and we can't keep you hot, go in with one of them kids. Because you can be forgiven for losing one of them. That's top end boxing. Or if you want to bring him back here, go against who's the kid that gave Tank a really hard fight? Roach. Bringing someone like a Roach. Or bringing a Puello. There's fights out there for Dalton Smith that he can win.
Puello's a tough fight for him. I thought he'd probably beat Matias too.
And Roche doesn't bring any money though. That brings.
Roach probably brings money after his last two fights,
Yeah.
though. Like his name has gone up.
But would Roach want to travel? Because I don't think you would do that over here if he fought Roach. Because I don't think stateside anybody would care about Roach versus Dalton Smith. You'd have to go over there and do that. And you're right about Hitchens. I mean, Smith could beat Hitchens. It's not like Hitchens is a great fighter. I just think Hitchens has more in his tool bag than Matias, and he just has. I think he just could shut. I think he could just turn Smith off, and just kind of make it his fight, and there's not much Smith could do about it. Frustrate him.
Yeah, we'll see what's next for him. Just you won your title here in January. He should be able to get out another 2 times this year. Like you said, don't waste the momentum. Yeah. But that was a really good performance from Smith there, and and hopefully they're riding high on that one. It's a shame that things didn't go quite as well for the ticket sales and all that, but fuck it, we'll get it back
just to be
another
clear,
time.
Matty.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to be clear with you, right? We've been looking for something in boxing to stoke our fires. We've been looking for something in boxing to get us all going and get us up for boxing again. And last night was it. And what Dalton did was something that British boxing was always built on. Every now and then, one of ours goes over to America and beats a really good fighter in a New York or a Las Vegas. And last night he did it. So I don't want to see him drop down 3 or 4 levels now and fight kids we've never heard of and go 2 or 3 times and see out 2026 like that and then waiting for an Adam Azim fight. What I'm talking about is if you're in the same weight class as Lopez and Hitchens and Keyshawn and Puello and Anton Russell and Roach, let's make these fights. Let's do it. If this is what boxing needs, we've got someone that proves he can get on the road and he can beat kids. let's roll the dice with Dalton Smith. Let's do it for boxing's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. But yeah, that card, it was not a stacked card, but it turned out kind of okay at the end of the day. There was for those who haven't seen it, your clubhouse leader for knockout of the year is going to be Nestor Bravo over Pedro Campa. He just caught him as clean as you can catch somebody on the point of the chin with a left hook and just flatten the ground out face first. Campa had nothing. So yeah, that's your clubhouse leader for knockout of the year, Nestor Bravo over Pedro Campa. There was a 1-round shootout between Javier Cintron and Victor Efren Sandoval. Cintron went down once and then proceeded to just batter the shit out of Sandoval. Like he was angry at him for that happening for the next 2 minutes, getting the stoppage there. Manuel Rodriguez was in a fun fight with Fernando Diaz, who was definitely outsized and kind of outskilled, but he would not be outwilled, and he insisted on staying there for the entire time. Justin, it was if you paid $54.95 for it, I mean you had to do it as a huge Matias or Dalton Smith fan, but as far as it goes, that wasn't an unentertaining card. I mean, obviously the main event was fun, great knockout on there.
Now 54 is crazy, but you can't bitch too much if you paid it because you got to see a real good knockout. You got to see a couple of decent fights. It was funny, the 3 knockdown guy, because when he knocked him down, after that, every punch the other guy landed knocked him down.
Yeah,
it's like 3 straight punches in a row that knocked him down. So that was a fun fight. I think Emmanuel Rodriguez played with his food a little too much, and that's why that fight went 10 rounds.
Yeah, he knocked him down in the first. He should have finished it pretty early.
Yeah, he went 2 rounds. He didn't need to go. But I can't complain. I mean, that's the price is where you complain. If that had been $14.95, how you going to bitch about that?
Yeah, honestly, there was nothing else boxing related to watch that night. At a price of like $14.95, I would have probably been like, what the fuck?
When are they ever going to learn? If you could have put that at like $14-$19, they would have sold a lot more. They would have made more money because more people would have. You probably would have spent $14.
Yeah, but they would have had to have sold like 4 times as many to be able to make more.
But I'm saying you might sell more because more people are willing to pay $10, $14, $15 than $55.
Maybe. It's just such a narrow audience, and pay-per-view.com, like who's aware of the goings on pay-per-view?
I love the best announcer I've ever in my lifetime. They got him. I mean, Jimmy Lennon, you got to see him.
Jimmy was on there.
You had the couple of the Showbox crew guys were on there. I said I didn't like their Matias announcing at all. It's almost like they were told you have to say this about him because he was doing the promoting. But
yeah, I can't remember who put that event on, but it wasn't Eddie, but whoever put that on.
It was Matias' team.
Yeah, I can't remember what the hell they're for.
Fresh Production.
Yes, there you go.
That was his team because he's all about that leopard, whatever shit he does. That was his team that did that.
That's the kind of event that might send you fresh into bankruptcy court. So
there's no way they made money off of that. And I hope Dalton Smith actually gets his money, but Eddie will make sure he gets paid.
For that stuff, when they do the purse bids and shit like that, they have to put money in escrow or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, and also
some protective order on it.
You might not like Eddie Hearn, some people don't, but he'll make sure he got paid if they tried to screw him.
That's true.
He would not let his fighter get screwed like that. So that's the one thing about Eddie Hearn. You never have to worry about stuff like that if he's your guy.
Yeah.
So, actually, it's not bad. 54 is too much, but it overall was not a bad card.
No. It's just not worth 2 months of DAZN subscription. It sucks you're comparing it to that. A couple of months on DAZN is better than that.
Hey, next year at this time, that's going to be 1 month of DAZN subscription. If we keep going at this pace, we're going to be hitting high 30s soon.
We'll see. It seems like people talk a whole lot of shit about DAZN everywhere now. It just seems like they've become a public enemy in the sports world. So I don't know. And then with the deal with that Zuffa Boxing, and that's going to be on Paramount. They got Callum Walsh on there for their first show, and that's going to be on the 23rd, I think. So then there's a lot of stuff could get pulled just to the regular onto Paramount, which is
you might not like him, but He knows what he's doing. Look what he did at UFC. He knows what he's doing. If he gets the right connections, and he has them, I mean, he's got the money behind him. This could work. This could work if it's done right. And he knows what he's doing. It could work. We'll see. I'm kind of interested to see how that's going to work out.
Yeah, it very well might. But we shall see. But yeah, that was a pretty all right card. Des, did you see anything else on there you wanted to touch on before I move onwards?
No, mate, I just watched the Dalton Smith fight.
All right. Yeah, the week before that there was a card. Speaking of Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, Amanda Serrano headlining on that one, and let's see here. Get on to that, and her fight with Reina Tejas. Tejas came in on late notice because Eric Cruz, who it was going to be a rematch of a fight they had a year and a half ago or whatever. And she talked another person who popped positive. I think she might have been for a diuretic. But yeah, she found herself fighting a short notice opponent, Reina Tejas, who did well. This was originally supposed to be a 12 threes. I think they changed it to 10 threes to help out this gal getting on there only on a couple of weeks' notice. But Amanda did well. A couple of the scorecards seemed too close to me. I thought that she probably won at least 8 rounds, if not 9 on there. You might make an argument for the shutout, but a couple of judges had it 97-93. What are you going to do? Another opponent makes it to the distance with Serrano. I don't know if she's going to get that knockout record she wants, but to be fair, she's fought a lot of better fighters, at least in the victorious side of the column, than Christy Martin did, who set that record. Also on that card, Stephanie Hahn getting a technical decision over Holly Holm. Holm really looking all over 43 or 40 years or 44 years in that fight. I was surprised at how easy she was to tag. A headbutt opened up a cut, and they pulled it after, I think, 7 rounds. Hahn, a deserved winner, really was doing incredibly well, except for eating a couple of decent right or left hands from Holm. So an upset on there with Yankiel Rivera losing his belt to Jonathan Guerrero. He was even down in the second round, or excuse me, Jonathan Gonzalez. Gonzalez, the old veteran, he just had everything he needed to counter Rivera. He just kept boxing corner to corner, finding counter shots, and it was pretty easy work at the end of the day for him. So and he will move on as champion. And a fight I wish I had bet on, because I think she might have been paying 10-1 as an underdog before the fight, is Alexis Areza Munoz taking a win over the attempting to come back there, Ebony Bridges. Bridges looking very uninspiring. I don't think whatever she had that was, made her all right at one point in time, that's gone. She was slow, getting tagged repeatedly, and she lost an 8-rounder, and that should probably be the end for Ebony Bridges. I don't know.
Matt, what made her all right was her big tits. That's the reason we even remember who she is. So not her skill in the ring. So whatever she lost, she never had.
Well, maybe that's what's holding her back. She could probably go down like 2 weight divisions.
That's probably what she has to do.
Yeah, get the fake tits removed, drop a couple weight classes. Like you gotta pick up your speed. Des, you didn't see any of these fights from last week, did you?
Certainly not. No.
Okay. So here. Oh God, I was on mute there. So anyhow, yeah, it was a fairly light week as far as things go. I'm trying to think of anything that we might be able to discuss that has gone on. I'll tell you what we haven't discussed since the last time I think we were on here. And it just this sport is just insane. Like it just seems like not only like do the things that happen in it, the personalities involved, all of its wackadoodle, it just crazy shit continually happens outside of the ring. And this time it's with Anthony Joshua, who was in a car accident in Nigeria. There was like a stalled car in the middle of the road, and the driver was going far too fast. Her tire blew out, and just terrible accident. I don't know all the details because that's like it's pretty gruesome. And at the end of the day, but AJ's friends, Kevin Eodeli and Sinagami, their lives were taken in that, and it just holy shit. Like, holy freaking shit. Like, less than 2 weeks after breaking Jake Paul's jaw, and then you see this image of Joshua just, just absolutely in obviously physical and emotional pain, just in terrible shape on the side of the road. I don't know. Crazy, crazy shit does that. And what a knock to British boxing. So many of the people in there. I mean, they know each other. Our dude Obi, knew these guys too. So it's not like it's just confined to Joshua. A lot of people are feeling this and said these were two really good dudes.
Yeah, I've not seen. I'm not one to watch them type of videos, and although I've had things sent to me, I don't open them. I don't want to see it, and I just know that there's a lot of people that are hurting right now. There's a few families. There's a couple of young lads that have passed away tragically, and I hope AJ can come to terms with it. And I sincerely mean this. My thoughts are with the families of the people that have perished. It's absolutely tragic. So to me, it's got nothing to do with boxing. It's got no demands on him. I just hope everybody involved that come through it can do so and learn to cope with it. And the poor families that are mourning their loved ones, my thoughts are with you.
Yeah, and the man who was driving apparently is facing charges. He was not even licensed as a driver, at least as a chauffeur. Yeah, it just is a senseless loss of life there in Nigeria. Man just trying to go out there, celebrate with his friends after, a win and a big payday. And he ends up dealing with the most tragic event that he has ever dealt with in his entire life. So I mean, we hope AJ can get his feet under him again. And but I don't know if you see this man in a boxing ring again.
It'd be a stretch. Yeah, I think it'd be a stretch.
This is traumatic shit. It's more than just getting yourself fight fit to be able to get in the ring again. Like this, he's gonna have to get over some hurdles to get there. So I hope more so than seeing him in a ring again. I hope he gets over those hurdles
Correct.
because it's absolute insanity. So, Justin, do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, I think we all can go out there with our platitudes and stuff like that, but I just don't want to leave you out of the fold there.
No, y'all. There's nothing left to say. Y'all, that summed it up. It sucks.
Okay.
Nothing to add. I mean, it's just life fucking sucks sometimes. That's all you can say.
Yeah, it fucking does. I think Mr. Steve Wellington might be with us as well. Steve, do you find yourself bored on this Sunday evening?
Yeah, speaking of life sucking, Wellington's on the call.
But yeah, Steve, why don't you give us your thoughts on that Dalton Smith Subriel Matias card? It's been a little bit light, but we have a fight of the year contender or a clubhouse leader. We got a knockout of the year clubhouse leader on that card. It was all right, and the drugs cheat got his. I kind of like the karma.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's been said in the build up to death, but I mean, how long's Matias been doing this for? It casts a cloud over the fight and everything. I know it's only trace amounts and all this, but we know something's going on. I'm no drugs cheat expert, but I mean, Matias has been an absolute beast, and he hasn't been a beast recently. Funnily enough, Liam Parrow sort of led him a merry dance, and that's what I thought Dalton Smith would try and do last night. But he stood there and he went toe to toe for him, and it was a better fight for it. And Smith just walked through the fire, really. And there wasn't a great deal of fire, surprisingly. I mean, Dan Raphael seemed to think there was. Raul Marquez, fighter I remember back in the day, great warrior, had a bit of a mare on commentary last night. I don't really know what kind of fight he was watching, but Matias's output is just completely diminished, man. He needs to get back on the juice if these are the amount of punches that he's throwing. Apart from a few uppercuts in round 3 and 4, when he came back into the fight, I thought the fight was pretty much even. It didn't seem taking over. He was doing more than he did in the early rounds, if that's what they mean by taking over, the people who were saying that. First round, he barely threw a punch. His corner man was putting a firework up his arse saying, you're going to have to do a bit here, which we've seen from Matias in the past. He's done that against guys like Ponce, Jukumbayev, and these other fellas, Ergashev, where he gives the first round away and then he puts that relentless pressure onto you. He pushes you against the ropes, throws shots with the hands held high. He couldn't hold his hands high in this fight. He looked knackered. The hands were hanging around by the waistline. And when he was getting pushed back, Matty, in round 4, I thought to myself, Smith has got a chance here. And Matias, I think, was sort of getting on top a little bit more in that 5th round when Smith caught him with the shot. But it's an absolutely cracking shot. The bloodthirsty in me would have liked to maybe see Matias take a few more afterwards like a champion and be put to bed once and for all. But, I mean, he was pretty much done. It wasn't as bad as the Caballel stoppage. But Matias, like all these flat track bullies now, has been sort of exposed is a bit of a harsh word. But, I mean, what's going to happen now? It's going to be like the Kovalev effect, isn't it? Anybody fighting him half decent in the future is just going to stick it right on him. And that chin's been cracked. If he even comes back, he might not. He seems a bit of a wayward character. He might just pack it in now. But fair play to Smith in summary. Did the job, stood there, went toe to toe with him. And I think it was a great fight. Really enjoyed it. Great 5 rounds. Away soil. Eddie didn't do him any favours by failing on the purse bids. Get him that fight in the Hillsborough Soccer Stadium now, I think, will be great for him.
Steve, when we was coming up in boxing in the 90s, this is what British kids had to do, isn't it? You got the short end of the money, you travelled, you boxed, you went out to New York, Vegas, you boxed a local kid, and I know he's Puerto Rican, but it's a Puerto Rican in New York, and they're a puncher, they've got the title, and you had it all to do. And it I don't know how you felt. It took me back in time a little bit watching Dalton Smith last night.
Yeah, no, I think that's a brilliant assessment, Des. I thought exactly the same. He had to go away from home, sort of partisan crowd. I know there was an issues over the tickets. There weren't too many people there, but I thought the atmosphere looked really good. Matias was enjoying himself on the way into the ring, and I thought, oh God, it's Puerto Rico all over again when he fought Paro here. But you're right, he had to go against the beast, into the lair, into New York, away from home. Nobody fancied him. It's sort of me in the corner, me and my dad in the corner against the world. And you know, my promoter hasn't kind of backed me. And then you get the world title, and then you come back to England and defend it a couple of times. That's the way it used to be. Des, you know that.
Well, Matias was sitting there taking photos with fans on the way to the ring. Who the fuck does that?
He was like the darts. I thought he was at the darts.
Yeah, he was like, he had like 3 or 4 photo opportunities. Nobody hadn't seen that. I've never seen that in a world title fight where the guy stops and takes photo op with multiple people. That was he deserved to lose. Fuck it.
Yeah, that's how it used to be, and it took me back in time watching Dalton last night, and I've said it before, and I'm repeating myself, but I think that's what boxing fans needed last night. I think British boxing needed a bit of that, and in this era where we've got so many kids fighting for vacant belts or being upgraded with belts, it was nice to see someone with his dad and his promoter go across the pond and do it the old-fashioned hard way. And I loved last night. I thought last night was brilliant.
Yeah, away from home and beat a champion, absolutely.
Yeah, and Will and again, he needs to get out 2 times this year, hopefully, and yeah, whatever, give him a soft touch, but we want something good for the last quarter of this year from Dalton Smith. But yeah, it's just a really kind of a dull point in the schedule kind of here, and it's just I'll tell you what, I'm part of a couple of different like boxing chat groups on Facebook or discussion groups or whatever. And I'll tell you what blows me away. Like, from what I can tell, at least in the American side of things, if like there was like no fucking racial component of people like laughing at fucking Mexicans when they lose or laughing at black people when they lose, I think the American boxing audience would go to shit. Like, that's what half of these American discussion groups are. It's just them talking crap about each other when their fighters lose. And then they're too stupid to know a guy like Subriel Matias is an Afro-Latino, so he's both of them. And that creates something funny too. But that's all we have in the States is like race baiting over boxing. Like the era of great discussion is done, and I'm starting to think that boxing isn't only kind of heading a bad direction just because the fights and the sport and the promoters. It's because the fans aren't nearly as knowledgeable as they used to be too. Do you think I'm wrong in that assessment, Steve?
I don't
Like,
know.
we have a good group. Our guys know their
Yeah.
shit, but it's very, very niche. It's not an open group, like you gotta want to
Last night was a
be a
bust,
part
Matty.
of it.
Martin, last night was a real it was a real push in the right direction, and not just Dalton out in New York, but Caballero in Germany too. He packed out the arena,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they was really getting behind him. And I grew up with American boxing and boxing in Germany, and last night was a bit of a step back in time, and I bloody loved it.
See, Caballero, I thank you for bringing that up. Like, and I just watched that fight again like an hour ago because the first couple of rounds I was kind of like in and out for, but that crowd apparently was sold out in Germany. They were loud, they were raucous, they were chanting his name. The stoppage was probably a smidge early, even though the writing seemed to be on the wall, because it got to a point where every time Caballero touched him with that right hand, he was moving Caneva back. But it was honestly, like, considering Caballero has been a fighter kind of without a real home and has been fighting on the road for so long, for him to get that reception, I was kind of fucking blown away.
Yeah,
Germans
always come out for their guys though.
Yeah,
when they have a good fighter.
And also, I think you mentioned about that sort of racial component, which I don't usually step into these kind of arenas, but that I agree with you on the discourse.
Yeah, you live around a lot of white people.
I know I do. I agree. I agree on your thing about the discourse, but I wonder whether that's just like the social media thing, and then you'll always have guys like us chatting, whereas back 30 years ago, we would have been the guys who talked in the pub or sent the letters into Boxing News or read Boxing Monthly, and we maybe wouldn't have had so much of a voice. But you're talking about those sort of partisan lines. And then in New York, like you had the Puerto Rican against the English guy and both sets of fans in the arena. In Germany, you had the Germans, you had the Poles, you had the Kurdistan or whatever the other sort of nationalities and the flags were. So it's still, you mentioned about the atmosphere, but it's still sort of
tribal.
Been bought, yeah, still tribal. The atmosphere was good because you had all these different kind of people from different countries coming together. So that sort of racial or cultural component within boxing, the old black versus Mexican rivalry, which has gone back since time immemorial, since we've all been, way before we have watched the fights. That's always been part of boxing. And I know that it brings the idiots out sometimes, but that sells tickets really when it comes to the arena. You've got us talking about the nerdy stuff, and then you've got I'm going to go and support this guy because he's a black guy or because he's a Hispanic or because he looks like me, and that's what puts bums on seats as well, I suppose.
See, I always liked it when you break it, like when it's more like the nationality stuff and it's remnant, like, and it's like the soccer rivalries that enter into other sports. Like I've said, if I've said it once, I've said it 500 times in this show. Freitas versus Barrios, one of my favorite fights of all time, and it's Brazil versus Argentina. Like part of it was the crowd, right? And the Puerto Rico versus Mexico rivalry and all that. And I don't know, like Caballero, he's Kurdish, so I guess it's like basically every other Muslim against them. But like the nationality stuff it's always been like that's kind of cool. Like, and that's just more like a simple pride thing. But it's like, I think, again, you might be right, where it's just like social media has like ruined everything, including boxing. And it's just like toxic, like overtly racist shit. Like Jesus fuck, man. Like, do you like know how to discuss like how styles make fights or how so-and-so uses the jab? No. It's just, he lost because he's black. Like, what the fuck? We got to be able to do a little bit better.
How many people are actually saying that, though? I mean, I don't really go on
this
social
group,
media.
Dude, I'll send you a link to this group on
thanks.
Facebook. If you just want to trust me, you're fine, but please just trust me. I just find myself absolutely shocked. And like, you try to like have a good conversation with people and you can't.
There's still hope, Matty. Well, let's just say it's 12 angry people in your group who are saying these things, and the rest of the boxing fans are decent people. We'll assume that.
Yeah, like here's a good example of one. Like the things that I like to discuss with people, and this might be an interesting one for you guys, because they're saying who wins, Tommy Morrison or Deontay Wilder, and like probably 95% of them said Tommy Morrison, and I'm like Wilder. Like, look at some of the people that Morrison has lost to, and you also like specifically style wise, yeah, Tommy had a great left hook, but Dez, am I wrong in saying that to deliver that left hook, he leans down into his own left side, loads up in a place where Wilder would fucking cork him?
Yeah,
He's
that's a really
stuck
good.
on that left side all the goddamn time.
Yeah, that's a really good fight. But I think if you could assume that Wilder beats Deverne twice and Ortiz twice, Robert Helenius in the first round. No, I think you got to assume that his punch in his range and Morrison's style. I'd fancy Wilder in that one. It's a good fight, that.
Yeah. Yeah. And all they could come down with when you present such things to them is most people are like, no, Wilder sucks. Who did he ever beat? Luis Ortiz is a journeyman. I'm like, you don't even know how to define journeyman, you fucking
You've got to
dickhead.
get out of that group. You've got to get out of that group.
Yeah.
Well, Tommy Morrison did fight a journeyman, didn't he? Literally was brought out the crowd whenever that other fella refused to get out the dressing room. Do you remember that?
And they asked he was in like the fourth row, and one of the promoters said, "Hey, I know that guy. He's a professional. He's got like 20 fights under his belt." And they went up to him and they said, "Would you be willing to fight?" And he said, "Well, let me call and ask my wife if I could fight." And then they went and borrowed some trunks and gloves from somebody else, and he went in like 2 hours later. Talk about
Tim Tomaszek. Yeah.
he just happened to be in like the crowd, and some guy's like, "That's Tim Tomaszek. I think he's a heavyweight. Get him." And the guy jumped in. And you know what? I watched that fight because I love Tommy Morrison. He actually took Tommy Morrison rounds. Tomaszek actually hung in there for a little bit. He wasn't like getting blown out, which was embarrassing because he was just eating a hot dog like 10 minutes ago. But now I agree with Matt. I love Tommy Morrison. He's one of my favorite fighters. He was just fun to watch. That's a really heartbreaking. If you've ever watched that documentary they made about him, they made a really good documentary a few years ago about Tommy Morrison, and like it was just really good. But I think Wilder knocks him out within 5 rounds because Morrison had no defense, really.
Only because of his style, Justin. That's right.
Yeah.
I think what we've got to do. I think what we've got to do as boxing fans, and we've got to rise above this extremity crap. You know, where someone like AJ's amazing and Andy Ruiz is rubbish. Well, no, it's not true. AJ's a decent kid, probably a bit better than Derek Chisora, and Andy Ruiz is a really good fighter who was a fan. You know, done ever so well in the amateurs. Went out to New Zealand and beat a hot Joseph. Never got a decision against a hot Joseph Parker. So there's not a lot of daylight between them, and that's intelligent conversation. That's what, as boxing fans, we've got to bring that to the table. So when you're speaking to someone that says Deontay Wilder's absolutely garbage, you've got to stop them people in the track and say, you don't know what you're talking about. And you've got to run them down. You've got to run them up the chain. Say, you know, he went to the Olympics and got a bronze. You know, if you went to your local boxing club, you wouldn't be ready to have a bout in 6 months. This kid went to the Olympics and got a bronze. Then he turned pro and won a WBC title. And you've got to lay out the people he boxed and where he boxed. And he come over to the UK and knock people out. And you've got to say, this guy's the one that had 2 life and deaths with Tyson Fury. You know, you've got to try and talk these people round, but don't let them be the loudest ones in the room. Us, boxing fans, we've still got to bring intelligent, balanced conversation to the debate. We've still got to chair this conversation. And the idea someone can say a world champion is rubbish and another world champion is brilliant, that's wrong for a start off. We've got to bring it closer than that. And I think there's too much in boxing. It's
Styles make fights. People don't get that either.
Well, Wilder would beat Morrison now.
Yeah. As Wazai said, also Morrison is dead. Yeah, we're talking prime versus prime. So Des, you are analyzing this as prime versus prime. We're not talking about punching a corpse, right? I'm just
Go back and watch Tommy Morrison. It's on YouTube. You can see there's few people they posted his tough man fights when he was like 18, 19. I mean, absolutely killing these ridiculous rednecks that jumped in the ring and didn't realize this kid was good, and he was beating the hell out of like 50-year-old men, just beating the shit out of them.
But yeah, though,
kinda-
Justin. The thing is, though, wild as that wash now, he could end up like having a tune-up against like one of Morrison's sons or something. I could see that happening. We're not too far off this fight, you know.
Well,
What happened to Troy Lippy?
Yeah, both of the sons tried to fight. They tried to join the Jake Paul, and Jake Paul said didn't give a shit about fighting either one of the Morrison sons at all. Because you got Kinsey and then Trey Lippy, and neither one of them are. I mean, of course, they're not as good as their dad. They're not awful, but I think one lost to Sean Rottman Jr., and they're not that good.
Well, like Morrison was like all right, but like I think like people rate him basically entirely off of him beating George Foreman. And that again, that is just styles make fights. He was the right kind of guy to fight an old George, And as long as he didn't get touched like Michael Moore did, he was probably going to win that fight.
Well, you've seen that fight. Morrison fought a fight he's never fought in his life. He never fought before, and he never fought.
That was the most responsible that he has ever fought.
He was not.
Ever.
He was jabbing. He was moving. And Foreman absolutely could not touch him. Could not. Foreman was old. He couldn't get close to him. He did exactly. He said he did what Moore should have done. He did exactly what Moore should have done.
I don't think I've ever seen that fight, I must watch that.
Yeah, Morrison fought a really, he didn't even open up. He just jabbed, moved a little bit. He looked good. He actually showed he has some boxing ability, and Foreman was just, you know what Foreman was at that time. I'm going to try to hit you with the right hand, and that's all I can do.
Yeah,
I'm not going to run you down. What is George Foreman from that era? Like, it is amazing what he did in coming back, and it just like one of the greatest moments in sports. They will never be able to take that knockout away from him because it's indisputable. It was done, over with. It's not on the scorecards. He knocked out the heavyweight champion of the world and walked away with the belt. But if you go in after that, a lot of people, I don't know if I've ever actually watched the fight, but a lot of people had Foreman losing to Axel Scholz, and a lot of people think he beat Shannon Briggs. The return of George Foreman is not a simple conversation in the fighter that he was at the time. In the Holyfield defeat, that was nasty. If you have never seen the 18 punch combination Evander Holyfield landed on George Foreman, look it up. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right. It was a long road to the title as well, wasn't it? When he came back, he had loads and loads of fights, and I thought he lost to Schultz. Actually, I mean, I haven't watched the fight for about bloody 20 years.
Yeah, it's 30-year-old fight at this point.
Yeah.
I agree with Steve. He lost to Schultz. I watched that fight on YouTube a couple years ago. I thought he lost. Schultz was another guy that was actually pretty decent during that period.
Underrated for sure. And if he would have gotten that W over Foreman, I'm not saying he would have been the world beater in the division, but I think that a Scholz win over George Foreman definitely shakes up the last half of the 90s in the heavyweight division.
I think what Foreman his legacy will always be tainted is that he ducked my man Francois Botha during that time period, and that's where I've always remembered George Foreman as he just kept ducking and wouldn't give him his shot.
I'll tell you what taints his legacy. The Schultz comeback taints Foreman's legacy, because Schultz tried to come back in 2007, 2008, something like that, when he was about late 40s, maybe early 50s, can't remember. And he fought Brian Minto. He ended up getting stopped in about 6 rounds, but he came back to the ring, and on his way, they had all these talking heads sort of on the screens. They got people to say things about it. And George Foreman come on and says, come on, I came back and you can come back too. If you win this fight, they'll be talking about you as the greatest there ever was.
Jesus, fuck. He got knocked out by Brian Minto.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's I've imagined all this, yeah.
Schultz can come again. I mean, everybody else is coming back. He can come back again. Who's the guy coming back? God, who's the heavyweight coming back that cried in the ring? McRae or whatever his name is.
McCall?
McCall, yeah, he can fight McCall or whatever. Fight him again.
Schultz is 57 now. So.
Hey, that's about the same age McCall is.
Yeah, so he was in his late 30s.
McCall's going to get stopped, isn't he, eventually?
He was in his late 30s and he got stopped by Brian Minto. That's even worse.
Oh, right enough, yeah. He wasn't that old then.
No. No.
2006 it was. Sorry, 2006. So
You
yeah.
gotta remember though, Brian Minto wasn't an easy touch.
Brian
Decent
Brian Minto was like he was Joey DeWaco if Joey's management steered him into a couple of better
Or
opportunities.
Joey was bigger.
No, Minto, because Minto fought at cruiserweight most of the time.
Like height wise.
Oh yeah. Like
Well,
I thought the funniest thing. Do you remember when they brought fucking Minto over to fight Marco Hook?
Yes, I remember. He brought him down. He had to like
Mm.
drop like 30 pounds to get down to fight Hook.
It's fucking hilarious.
Who had a
Sorry,
great
I
name.
feel like I've took us down a pathway here
I
that
don't-
nobody
what-
expected as usual.
There's like nothing else, Steve. We have to talk about something. This
Hey,
is
Marco
fun.
still had a great name, the captain.
Yeah, Captain Hook. That was a great one. Yeah. No, Huck. Oh, man. The cruiserweight division like 12, 15 years ago was the shit. Who was that that Cuban son of a bitch?
Oh, Joan Pablo Hernandez.
Yes.
Yeah, he
yeah.
was brilliant. He was chinny, but he was very, very skilled.
You had
Yes.
O'Neal Bell. You had O'Neal Bell, the Jamaican. You had the
O'Neal Bell versus
Mormek.
Jean-Marc Mormek.
Yeah.
Oh, the
That's-
first
that's
one.
one of
That's
those
one of my favorite
Yeah,
fights, man. That's
if
a
you haven't
brilliant
seen
fight.
it, watch it, folks.
Yeah,
Adam
yeah,
Mack
that's great
started moving
fights.
up a little bit. Not really. He kind of was still
Yeah.
like heavyweight at that time. But yeah, you had some really cool fights.
Adamek was in around that time.
Yurov, was it during that time?
Yeah, that was to tell him. Yeah, he kind of like he had that Tony fight, and then he didn't really get another he didn't get a good W after that, even though he didn't win that
He moved
fight.
up he moved up to heavyweight and kind of did a lot of fights in Russia and Germany and just kind of fell off. That was it. He just kind of that was his swan song for Yurov. That was it.
Yeah.
Do you remember a guy before in the early 2000s called another Cuban, Juan Carlos Gomez? He ended up moving up to heavyweight, and I think he fought one of the Klitschko's. He was a WBC
I do remember
cruiserweight
him.
champion for a
Yeah.
long time.
He was.
Yeah,
good
was
fighter.
it like 6'7" or some shit? Or am I thinking
Well, no.
some ridiculous height? Or am I thinking
No, he
someone
weren't. He
else?
weren't that. He weren't 6'7". No, he was
No.
too small to be a
I
heavyweight.
think I
He's
might
got
be
the
thinking
Klitschko
of Guillermo Jones, and I
Those
think I'm
guys-
overrating
Yeah.
his height.
Think about it. The top 10 during that period would kill the top 10 now. Anybody in that
Gomez
top,
beat Stephen McCall in 2007.
Yeah.
There you are. There's another one for you. He beat Sinan Samuel Sam as well.
Who?
There you go.
you
R.I.P.
gotta Hay was fighting around
RIP.
cruiserweight at that time.
Oh yeah. Him versus Enzo Macronelli. Like that was supposed to be like a competitive unification fight, and he just wiped the fucking floor with Enzo Mac.
No, I don't think it was, man. They played a blinder, I think, with the PR with that fight, from what I remember, because it was on Setanta. Hay had moved up to heavyweight, I think, and had a couple of bouts, and they thought they were dragging him back down. I could be remembering this wrong. Let me know in the chat. And they thought they were dragging him back down to cruiserweight, and I always thought he'd be a bit too fast and punch too heavy for Macronelli, but they thought they were weight draining him. That's what I remember of that fight, because he'd had a couple up at heavyweight.
I swear his heavyweight debut was against Jamil McCline, outside of probably some randoms on his way up. Because
I don't think he fought McCline, did he?
Wasn't that
he fought Monty Barrett?
Monty Barrett, thank you. Yeah, and he tried to do the fucking Naz flip into the ring and fell.
Yeah, that's right.
We heard that name a long time. Jamil Big Time McCline.
Yeah, you're right, Matty. I'm full of shit, man. Oh no, hang on. He moved. Sorry. So he fought Fagamaini for the European title, which was a great fight. Sorry, then he fought Thomas Bonin in a kind of heavyweight fight. Then he beat Mormek. He moved back down to cruiser, and then I think he was saying he was going to go back to heavyweight. He'd won the titles. He couldn't make the weight, and then they thought it was something along them lines. Yeah, but you're right. It was Mormek then Macronelli, but he'd fought Bonin before at heavyweight with a view to moving up.
Hey, Monty Barrett from North Carolina. Just throwing that out.
Dude, God, do you remember the poster of him when he fought Nikolai Valuev, and they're like back to back, and you just felt gross looking at it, like having to have, you're just like feeling bad for him having to put himself against fucking Valuev's gross ass hairy back.
And Monty Barrett also was married to Pam from the Martin Show.
No shit.
Yeah, they were married for like 5 years.
Huh.
Yeah.
It was a shame, Steve, that it was a little moment in time in British broadcasting when they gave David Hay and Adam Booth the reins. And just as David Hay, the perfect storm against us all, really, because I think David Hay was a brilliant cruiserweight, had the potential to go and be a fantastic heavyweight. But just as he stepped up into heavyweight, He went out to Russia, boxed Valuev, brilliant win, and they just decided to put the handbrake on and spend the rest of their career in lukewarm water. And the networks were so impressed with David and Adam, they gave them the reins. And I think this was also about the Setanta time, and when the lunatics were running the asylum at Sky, and we just got 2 or 3 god awful pay-per-views, and boxing just fell off a cliff. But had there been someone with a little bit more of a shrewd nose for boxing, had David Hay aligned with a proper promoter, I think we'd have seen a really good heavyweight run from David Hay.
No, you're right. It was the Setanta time, yeah, because he fought Mormek on Setanta and he fought Macrinelli on Setanta, and he started signing up a few fighters around that time, him and Booth together, as you say.
Yeah.
George Groves was one of them. Martin Lindsay, because they promoted Martin Lindsay, Paul Appleby in the Ulster Hall. And I remember talking to, we interviewed Hay, Danny Flexen was about as well at that time. We interviewed Hay because he'd just done the infamous Klitschko heads t-shirt. You know, he had their 2 heads in his hand cut off, and Klitschko's really annoyed by this. And we asked him about that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm trying to just do promotion and whatever." And Klitschko said he wouldn't fight him because of that, but eventually, a couple of years ago, later, he actually did. But yeah, Setanta were well in at that point.
I'll tell you,
and that was the Audley Harrison pay-per-view, wasn't it, Steve? Which really was a nail in the coffin for boxing over here.
I think that was back. Was that not back? That was back on Sky though, wasn't it? I think
that was on Sky. Yeah.
Setanta had gone. Yes, Setanta had gone. They'd gone bust. Yeah.
Sky got the Klitschko fight. Yeah, Sky got the Klitschko fight, and before that, the Audley Harrison fight. And I think it was the other way around. Was it Audley Harrison first, then Klitschko, and then after Klitschko? Right. After Klitschko, did we get Chisora and Hay at Upton Park on
Box Nation?
Yep, in the rain.
Yeah, so
in the rain. Yeah, what a fucking environment for that fight. That was a crazy fucking fight. And the British Boxing Board of Control didn't want to sanction it, so they got like the Luxembourg
that's right.
boxing board to sanction or some shit like that.
That's right. And non-British license holders on the undercard because the British board weren't anything to do with it.
Yeah, here's an unpopular Hay opinion for you. Evander Holyfield beat Valuev more conclusively than Hay did, in my opinion.
Quite possibly, yeah. I wouldn't go against that.
Valuev against Holyfield is not one of the worst robberies I've ever seen from a score standpoint, but it is from a meaningful fight standpoint.
No, Holyfield definitely won that fight. Definitely won the fight. I mean, but just because Valuev was just slow as molasses.
Those guys are not as difficult. Like it seems like a daunting task because they're so huge, but you forget that so very few of them can fight on the inside. So like you have there's only this really a 1.5 foot space where you're in danger with them, and other than that, you're fine. Like it sucks to have them lean on you, but
they're not quick. So you're able to, if you've got a little mobility, you can just outmove them. But of course, Holyfield was going into his hometown. That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, Valuev did well with his career, really.
He did.
He never really had a home at any broadcaster, so no broadcaster really invested in him. And when he did have his feet under the table at Setanta, they went bust. And I just felt.
And then he ended up fighting on Dave. Dave on Dave.
Well, that was in his second comeback, but I mean the Tyson Fury thing had happened, and when you go back to the early days of David Hay, he boxed Alexander Durov on Sky, and Durov was a really established European fighter from a really good part of the world, wasn't he, Stephen? David Hay done him in about 30 seconds
with the right hand.
It was a statement. It really was. It was huge. But then David built on that with the Fragomeni.
Great fight.
And then after, it was a brilliant fight. And Fragomeni went on to become a WBC Cruiserweight champion. And Fragomeni was an Olympian. That was a really good build. And the Thomas Bonin was I'm dipping my toe at heavyweight. And I think Thomas Bonin, we'd seen him go 8 or 9 rounds with Audley Harrison or something like that. So we all kind of thought this was going to be a long night. And David done him in the first 90 seconds. And after that, one of the greatest wins from a British fighter aboard was David Hay getting off the floor, to beat the formidable John Mark Mormick at the Marcel Cerdan Stadium in Paris. It's a brilliant win. Like, we've got something here. I was there at the O2 when he fought Matt Cronelli. Mitchell and Johansson, one of the best fights I've ever seen live on the undercard. It was brilliant.
Mhm.
And then just after that, Steve, you know, he goes out to Russia, beats Valiev, he just picks his pocket, but you can do that. You're allowed to do that. But then after that, Steve, it never really happened for him, did it? And it was all a little bit, we don't know what network it's going to be on. We don't know who it's going to be promoted by. And I just felt, and I think a lot of people in around boxing felt that they're just trying to milk the cow a little bit dry on this one. And we never saw nothing. Most exciting thing we saw from David Haye after the Matt Cronelli fight was the post-fight press conference where he kicked off with Chisora. That's the most exciting thing that happened in David Haye's career after the Matt Cronelli fight. And then, of course, he went out with Tony Bellew at the end. But I just think that was one that got away, David Haye. A brilliant cruiserweight, and I think we could have had a really good heavyweight run from him. Of course, Dave.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things you said that there, Des, definitely. First of all, he sort of had the sort of pretty boy image to a degree that he was able to woo broadcasters and make money, but he had a hard edge to him as well, as, you know, some of the comments that he made, and he wasn't afraid to stand there and fight with people like the Chisora thing and get down and dirty with the tripod and the glass. You know, he was a fighter at the end of the day. And also, you're right, he never really had a home. It's a bit like Chris Eubank Jr. almost, although Eubank Jr. obviously has never replicated his success in the ring, but he's kind of a personality who's backed himself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that comes with its drawbacks too, not veering too far off topic, but we look at the likes of Eubank being drained down in weight without that home, without that promoter, that manager, that consistent team to back him, and that broadcaster and that platform to back them. It's a two-way street. You can go off and milk all these different outlets and be your own man and back yourself, but it's also sometimes you need that person in your corner to look after you. And Haye and you never really had that in their careers.
And could you imagine if David Haye had sided up with Eddie Hearn at that time when Eddie was looking for fighters? Like, he got Cole Frock, and Frock was brilliant for Hearn, and Hearn was brilliant for Frock. But if you'd have got a David Haye to do the same with Eddie Hearn, where could they have taken that story? Listen, look, we all know how good David Haye was, but we're just talking, you know, we're just boxing fans rambling. I just think that was one really good British heavyweight story that got away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ahmed Boxing asked if we think that if Haye would have beat Adamek at cruiserweight. I do, and that's because of how Adamek struggled so badly with Steve Cunningham. And I just think that Haye would just be far too athletic for him. That's just a fit of a style for him. And you also got to think how Chad Dawson beat him.
Chad Dawson, I was just about to say that. Chad Dawson was absolutely brilliant that night.
Yeah, I don't think that goes well for him style-wise. So that was a nice little block in the pasture. We've kind of, we stretched it out where we could. There's not a whole lot, as I said. Like,
I don't interrupt you. That just shows what kind of nerds we are, that we could sit here for 3 hours and talk about early 2000s heavyweight and cruiserweight boxing and have no problem with it.
That's what we're here for, though, isn't it, man? That's what we like.
That's what I love. That's why I like. Yeah. That's why I've always loved this podcast. It's just people know that people are interested in the stuff that you're interested in and know about it and care. And you know, Steve can rattle off the name, and everybody's like, "Yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, I remember that fight."
Sometimes it's very, very obscure. You're like, no, I do not remember that particular Scottish fighter.
I can barely remember my kids' birthdays, but I can talk about Zolter Dice WBO defenses from 2007 to 2011.
Yeah, you got to have your priorities straight, Steve. So, but yeah, let's see here. We got not a whole lot on the schedule coming up here. Going down to Australia, I think this is Thursday. I don't know what time. It depends on what time it is. Stupid international dateline. But it's going to be the only like Liam Wilson's on there. Is on there. I'm a fan of him. That's at 135, probably where he belongs rather than 130. Nikita Zhu is the headliner though against Michael Zarafa, and I don't know. Like, Steve, my hunch on this one is like, I don't know who wins this one. Like, honestly, I kind of in my head favor Zarafa, but that's just because I think he's at the level where at this max Nikita Zhu is, and I'm not sure that Zoo is at Zarafa's level, whatever that means.
Yeah, well, when you frame it like that, I mean, it's a bit of an acid test, like a sort of move through this gate to the next level for Zhu, really. Because if he's going to be going anywhere, he's got to beat the likes of your Michael Zarafas, you imagine, who's always failed at the top level. But at this kind of level, he might mess him about a bit because Zhu, I mean, I know he's being built up like his brother, but I've always thought he's incredibly easy to hit. And he's definitely a talented kid, and he gets rid of people eventually. And he's had that sort of good grounding against guys like Cohen Mazoudia, who's a good fighter. They do like to match their fighters domestically in Australia, which I like. You know, he's fought Jack Brubaker, Dylan Biggs. They don't mess about with trying to. I mean, I could be wrong. Australian boxing fans could say no, they do sort of move them around, but they seem to fight each other. Like he's fighting Zarafa now. They no matter which way they're moving up and down, they do tend to fight each other, and I like that. They don't duck and swerve, and if you're going to get out of Australia, then you're a good fighter, and you sort of move towards that world scene. So he's fighting Zarafa, and I like that fight. International middleweight title. We'll move him up the WBO rankings as well. I think he will win. I think it's set up for him to win. And I think, was this the card that Paro Donovan was supposed to be on, I think, before that got called off?
Yeah,
I'm right. Yeah,
right. That's why. Yeah, it was supposed
Rock
to be,
the
and
best
it's not,
male
and it's a
stripper of all
bummer.
time, as far as boxing concerned.
What'd you say, Justin?
Is he the best male stripper of all time in a boxing
Could
ring?
well be.
I can't name another one. Steve, you would be the one to know if you.
Yeah, I'm sure I probably would, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. But as male strippers and boxers go, I suppose he's definitely right up there. But this was supposed to be the Paro Donovan card, as far as I'm aware, and that's a shame because I was really looking forward to that fight. He hasn't done Donovan any favors, but Paro seems like he's moving on. So Zhu is now top of the tree. I don't think he's quite as good as the brother. Although he was meant to be the more talented of them, he's pretty easy to hit. They like a scrap, which is good for the fans, but maybe not good for longevity. They maybe could do with that sort of bit of tactical nous that their father had, who could scrap when he needed to, but he also knew how to get on the jab and bang people out when he needed to. The sons are definitely more scrappers than he was, although they both seem to have retained his power, especially Nikita at this kind of level. You mentioned Liam Wilson as well. I always remember him being done dirty by God, what's his name? Navarrete.
Yeah, he should have had that one, the long count on the knockdown.
The long count, and especially beforehand. I mean, it was so dodgy, wasn't it? When with scales and Navarrete's weight and everything, and Liam Wilson
there was no way
weighs himself and says
126 pounds for that fight.
He said, I weighed myself in the changing rooms, and then I come out and weigh myself officially, and I'm like 4 pounds lighter. I mean, that is some absolute bullshit, man. Navarrete, his team done that a few times, didn't they? I always remember that, man. There was some dodginess going on. Poor Liam Wilson.
This sport is so fucking dirty. It's so fucking dirty. Like nobody even thinks to call it out. Like you're sitting there looking at this guy who you can't even feasibly see how he makes 130, and you're like, he would have made featherweight. Well, all right, that's a theory. So anyhow, yeah, this wouldn't be a bad fight. And Mike Thompson makes a good point. Like we didn't touch on Cavail that we touched on, but we didn't talk about that much. Maybe we should go into that real quick. But Caneva gave him a good little bit of run in the first round, but Cavail found his distance. He found that right hand. And was it an early stoppage? Probably a little bit, but it got to a point there in that third round where every time Cavail touched him with that right hand over the top, it was hurting and moving Caneva. So I don't know how early it was. Yeah, maybe by a half round or so, but he was in bad shape. But I don't know. He's probably hopefully headed to Usyk. At this point in time, Des, are you inclined to say that Cavail, nobody really has a good chance of beating Usyk, but Cavail probably has the best of all of them, especially his committed body attack, the way he goes about it?
Yeah, I think Cavail is going to be everybody's second favorite boxer. I mean, all boxing fans are going to say Cavail is my second favorite guy, if not my first, because he's doing it the way we like it. He's almost got that underdog feel about him that he's come from nowhere. And we've been watching him on the pod for the last 3 years, and he just seems to get more and more consistent, more and more solid, and he seems to be perfecting the things he's really good at. Last night, we've touched on it. It was like an old-fashioned, it was a 90s evening in German boxing, relived. I think it was brilliant. There was a huge crowd. They was really pro Cavail. They was vocal. They was supportive. The network was behind him. I used to drive out to Germany to watch big fights. It was a lovely drive. You stop off at Bruges, you have a bit of lunch, you get into Germany, you get into your hotel, and German boxing, they do things different. You can pick up a hotel in Dusseldorf, and you find it could be the fight hotel, and you mix in with Michael Buffer and Manny Stewart when he was alive, God rest his soul, and you could be all around all the fighters. And German boxing, if no one's ever done it, I'd really recommend it, and I'd love to see German boxing get back on its feet. And last night was an example of what we used to get in the 90s once a month. I think when you look at Caballero and the guys he's been fighting, whether it's a Makhmudov or a Zhang or even a Sanchez, I don't know if he was meant to win them fights. And last night, probably the first time in the last 3 or 4, it was one that was geared up for Caballero to win. It was everyone was behind him, you're going to get the push. And now we know that there's Usyk and we know Wardley's both got belts. We know there's fights out there if Dubois wants to throw his name into the hat. These are all huge fights and we can get you a title fighting any of them. Last night was all about showing the fans what you're made of. Let the fans show us what they think of you. And I think that kind of affected Caballero to a degree because he had a different approach to what he normally has. He wasn't so
He was
tight.
a little too stiff and up and down the first round, getting tagged. Third round, he was
tagged.
moving side to side, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's what I picked up. He got tagged. I didn't think he was so stiff, but I think he was a bit. His chin was a little bit higher than it normally is, and he was walking in straight lines, which allowed. How do you pronounce his kid's surname? Damien
Kaneba. And that's them saying it. It could be wrong.
Yeah. and Kaneba was just finding Caballero, but I think last night being what it was, and Caballero knowing I'm not going to lose this one, and Caballero knowing I've felt him, and I know he ain't going to get to me, and I think that played into what we saw. I think we saw a different type of Caballero, and as you quite rightly said, he was getting tagged a little bit too frequently, and we're not used to seeing that. He's a boxer of tricks normally, and he works really hard and really well, actually, in the pocket, Caballero. And last night he wasn't too occupied with that. I thought Damien Kaneba, I thought he neglected his jab for a guy that had the height and reach advantage, and he was prepared to go backwards and keep distance. He didn't have a very good jab, but what he did have was a right hand with a lot of variety. He was throwing it straight, he was whipping it up, he was throwing it around the corner, but it still didn't help him because as we got into round 2 and then into round 3 territory, Caballero was old man in this kid. He was walking him down. And you could see the method behind Caballero's madness. And he says, you're going to throw, but your chin goes up, you go on the back foot, and I'm just going to tee off on you. And he was being pinged about. Now, the stoppage, a lot of people online, a lot of people I've heard said it was premature. I always say this about a stoppage. Is it in touch with the tone of the fight? So, for example, when they stopped Parker in the Wardley fight, I felt the tone of that fight, I'd have given Parker a little bit longer, personally, from where I was sitting. But last night, believe it or not, in the tone of those few rounds and the way it was going, and the way Caballero was knocking him all over the ring and pinging him about, there was no chance he was going to recover, no chance he was going to get any better. All he was going to do was get clipped and knocked out. So I think the referee made a really good call in the tone of the fight. He wasn't going to go anyway, and it wasn't going to go well for Kaneba last night. After that, halfway through the 3rd round. So I've got no arguments with that stoppage. I can see why the referee arrived at that decision. Where does Caballero go from here? I think he can go anywhere he wants. I think he's quite an astute guy. He can sell a ticket. The broadcaster clearly likes him. Germany have adopted him, which we've seen them do for the last 30 years with boxers. I think it's exciting times for Caballero. I think him and Usyk's a really good fight. Him and Wardley is a fight I'd have to fancy Caballero to win because I've seen what Wardley is like when you get someone that's got really good feet and really good angles like Caballero's got. And what I will say about Caballero as well, he must be a puncher because he doesn't seem to load up on his shots. He goes from body to head really effectively and efficiently, and he's stopped his last 6. So there's an awful lot to like about Caballero.
Yeah, and he's got an 80-inch reach too. Like that's it's substantial.
Yeah.
he brings some interesting things to the table. And I think I'll tell you what, Justin, I think last night probably put Kabayel in a better position for an Usyk fight than he was prior, just because of how many people showed up to the fight. They sold out the crowd. Usyk, obviously, fighting in Ukraine would be crazy at this point in time. So he's looking for places and people where he can make a few good bucks because they'll bring and put asses in seats. And I think Kabayel proved that they can make some damn good money in Germany against each other.
Oh, you're exactly right. That helped. It definitely shows that it'll sell out and it's going to make a lot of money if they fight in Germany, which I don't see why they wouldn't make that fight. Usyk, I'm still surprised that Usyk's fighting, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. I don't know what he's got left to prove, but that's another discussion for another time. I don't know why he's still going anyway. But yeah, Kabayel definitely raised his chances now where you can't – they've been trying to ignore him, but you can't ignore him if the money involved, you can't ignore him. That's the bottom line. If you've got money involved the way he showed last night, then people are going to take that fight regardless if his name or not. They're going to take it if that much money can come with him. And like Des said, the Germans definitely love to adopt a guy. I think their best fighters over the last 20 years are not from Germany. I think Hook was not German. Sturm's not German. Abraham wasn't German.
Arslan isn't German.
Yeah, so that
Sturm was called Adrian Katnich or something, wasn't it?
The Klitschko's were basically adopted. We know they're not German. They were, so the German. When was the last true German superstar? I know that we'll probably remember
Axel Scholz.
Because yeah. Because wasn't Mehmet Erkal, whatever his name, he wasn't German, I don't think. Like there's no. I cannot remember the last time they had it. Like you said, Schultz might be their last legit.
Guys like Thomas Ulrich and Sebastian Sylvester, but they weren't stars really.
So yeah, they have not produced a star, I guess, since Schultz. And he was a star over there. He wasn't a star everywhere. So I just thought about that when you are mentioning Schultz. They haven't produced. They will today. Anybody, they don't care where you're from. You're going to be German by the time they get done with you. I don't care. Like Steve said, change your name. They don't care. They're going to. They will adopt you over there really quick. Because Kabayel's Turkish, right?
He's Kurdish, and that kind of puts him in his own thing because they're people without a land kind of ship. So yeah. They haven't been treated very well in Turkey, but that's another discussion for another podcast.
That's a discussion for your group on Facebook, Martin.
Oh, Jesus. But so, joining us today, you might say he's late, but how can you be late if the party doesn't start until you arrive? Joining us, as always, rapping Rob Kelly.
Like Ja Rule, baby, always on time.
Yeah. Yeah, except for when he's supposed to battle with Jay-Z, right? Or is that who hates him? Is it Jay-Z can't stand him?
50. It's
50. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's fucking hilarious. But anyhow, yeah. How many times has Ja Rule been shot?
I don't know if he's ever been shot. Maybe. Well, please God, he doesn't either. You know that way. I don't want to see fucking anything happen to Ja Rule in case there's another 9/11. You know that way, and I have to make sense of all these things.
The new beef is Bitcoin Rodney versus Bitcoin Bianca.
You'll have to fucking catch me up on that one. I haven't been paying attention.
Last time's value of the week.
Oh yeah.
So, did you catch the big event this morning? Did you pay $40.95 to get it on payperview.com?
Did I? Fuck no, I did. I
what do you think?
Yeah. He was on the edge of his seat waiting for that answer, Matty, wasn't he? I watched the fight, of course. I watched the full fight. I don't think anybody with any kind of passing interest or any kind of a kind of affiliation to the sport could begrudge Dalton Smith becoming a world champion in that fashion. Absolutely brilliant for him, buzzing for him. Had a fucking right go at it as well. Was in trouble himself. Thought he started off boxing smart, which was a good plan. Then Matias started to get a hold of him a little bit. But I thought he fought back well. So I thought he was under duress for maybe one round in the fight. He had got caught. Matias looked like he was doing the usual, marching towards him and going to beat him up and stop him, and he fucking bit down on the gum shield. Brilliant straight punches down the middle. Um, and that was all she wrote. And no complaint. I know Matias briefly complained when the fight was stopped, but he was there for the taking. He was about to be knocked out, and very, very hard to feel any sympathy for Subriel Matias with his track record in the sport, being one thing, and then his performances seemingly off the gasolina as well being another. Like so, high hopes for that guy. And if you'd have asked me 18 months ago, I think the first time I saw Dalton Smith, he beat up Ray Moylett from Ireland, who was a decent amateur, hasn't quite made the mark as a pro, but I would have thought a fight with Matias would have been like better off against the Undertaker. Like I didn't see anyone beating Matias. Then the Paro upset him. Then we obviously found out what we found out about him, and it all started to make sense a little bit. But Dalton Smith, they had our friend Gadger Grill, who was on here a couple of months ago with us. He put up a good post and said it had shades of Margarito Mosley, in that you're kind of rooting for Dalton Smith all the way through.
I said the same thing after it was over in the group. I would at first I was thinking, oh, this is like looking like the Jeremias Ponce fight. And I'm like, no, this is Mosley versus Margarito. Yeah, I'm with them.
Real energetic, real nail biting stuff, and a real rocky moment for Dalton Smith. Like, fucking fair play to him. Nobody was giving him a chance. Everybody wanted him to win, but nobody was giving him a chance. And he took his opportunity and won in emphatic fashion, and showed not just the knockout power, but good boxing skills at the start, and real grit and determination when he was hurt, and a nasty finish as well. I have to say from himself, like really clean punches down the middle. So happy for him. That 140 division, as the lads were mentioning, is pretty stacked. But surely they'll get him a nice defense now. Eddie knows the playbook. 100 times you get the title and then you hold on to it by all means. Like, do not sacrifice this guy against anyone that can beat him.
I'm starting to really like him. I'm trying to think exactly what he said. There was one of them boxing scene posts with a quote, but it was something about Matias being a drugs cheat, and Smith said like my performance enhancer is between my legs or something like that. I'm like, fucking gangster, fucking A, man.
Matias had threatened to break Eddie Hearn's face in the run up as well. Eddie had rattled him obviously over all the drug cheat allegations. Well, they're not allegations. The drug cheat, saying correctly that he was a drug cheat. But it had rattled Matias, and he threatened to break Eddie Hearn's face. But even after him saying that, I still wanted him to lose. So, yeah. Good on Dalton Smith, man.
Which of Eddie Hearn's faces was he going to smash there, Rob? He's had a few, hasn't he, over the years?
101 of them. Fuck's sake, that's brilliant. Yeah. Hopefully all of them. But I'm actually I'm kind of warm. I don't know. I'm getting soft in my old age, aren't I? Like, speaking of performance enhancers, I'm warming to Hearn a little bit more than I have over the previous years. Like, especially when you see him, like, he was quite sharp in the response to Matias and that. So yeah, Matias is not built for a verbal joust with Eddie Hearn, I don't think, is he? No more than Eddie Hearn is built for a verbal joust with me. Do you know that way? But yeah, I thought it was a good night's action and a wonderful moment for Dalton Smith. He can't begrudge him, and hopefully he goes and makes a right few quid for himself now in the next year to 18 months. Hopefully, don't fucking stick him on the shelf now. We don't have to wait another year to see him. We want to see him active. Like.
Yeah, he should be out 2 more times this year, in my opinion. We shall see what happens. But hey,
Matty, sorry, can I just jump in on Curiel very quickly, because I thought the boys actually summed it up really well, and there was a few moments I was going,
then why are you talking?
Well, yeah, that's true, actually. I need to take things down a notch. but no, I think Des's point really about Curiel being on the road in Riyadh and stuff was a good one, because there's that kind of mentality shift from an underdog to a favourite. How will he put up with it? And he walked on to a couple against Kanaiba, which you're going to do because they're big guys. But the same thing happened in the Agron-Skamicki fight as well. He was kind of, he wasn't running around as the underdog. He was standing tall in front of a good crowd and got caught, as you tend to do at heavyweight. But that mentality shift, I thought that was a good point from Des. Also, the reach. I thought Kanaiba's reach was ridiculous. He had these huge, long arms. He couldn't afford to let Curiel on the inside. Easier said than done. Once he started getting in with those body shots, I thought it was all one-way traffic. The right hand as well was coming over. I met up with friend of the pod, Dominic Henry, yesterday, actually, before the fight, and he was saying about Cabriel versus Usyk, and I think he's right. Usyk's movement from side to side would be difficult for someone like Cabriel, who has showed a lot of offensive capabilities, but I think Usyk's footwork and movement might lead him a merry dance for rounds, which might make it difficult if Cabriel can
It
get...
is tough because Caballe's been, because if there's anything that Caballe's proven is that he is a big man specialist. He gets in on him, he beats up their body. Like, look what he did to Zhang, and that's what he does. But it's a different prospect with Usyk because there's not as much real estate to tag ultimately, and as you said, better feet. He's just far more mobile than these behemoths could ever hope to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the likes of Zhang, big puncher, but if you can hit him to the body accurately, as we've seen in the past with the sort of liver problems and that, and kidney issues, then you will break him down. But Usyk obviously is more tight, compact. He doesn't like it to the body.
Didn't he just look like in like absolute pain? Like he just was just like looked like a grieving widow finding out her husband was killed in a war. Like, just like there's nowhere for the pain to go.
Oh, he's such a nice big cuddly bear as well, Zhang, and this guy's
He
just
does
beating
seem
him
a
up.
good guy.
I felt sorry for him. But yeah, a couple more things on Cabriel. Getting that big fight before any more peak years slipped by. 2017, when he outboxed Chisora, he came on the scene. I think it was in Monte Carlo, maybe, European title. Absolutely outboxed Chisora. We'd never heard from him before. We didn't hear from him for many years since. And then he started appearing on these big cards and showing us exactly what he wants. So does he want the big fights now? Hopefully so. He's got this WBC title. Good point on Germany from the boys. Usyk versus Cabriel showed last night. There's money there. There's a crowd there. There's an arena to be filled. Remember when I think it was Vitali fought Thomas Adamek? He went over to Poland back in about 2010, 2011, sold the arena out there, and that was, you know, a place to go rather than fighting in Germany or whatever. They could do a similar thing here with Usyk, and I think I heard it mentioned to me before, whether it's true or not, or just somebody's opinion, I don't know. But a lot of the reason why Caballero hasn't had the opportunities, which seems a bit strange to me, because I thought he would have ticked Turkey's boxes, so to speak, was that Turkey wasn't really that fussed on him. He wasn't fussed on seeing Caballero against Usyk. They're all waiting for his Julius Caesar thumbs up or thumbs down on fights, aren't they? And he wasn't that bothered. He didn't fancy Caballero. He wanted to make Usyk versus Fury 3. And that was one of the reasons, what was put to me, whether it's true or not, as to why we haven't seen that fight, because his Turkiness just wasn't interested.
Yeah, they just seem to kind of avoid and work around like I said to Justin, I think the big sea change that happened here that was not what happened in the ring was just outside of the ring. The fact that they can say, yeah, this guy who can't fight in his home country they can sell seats. This is an event here, like, and that's the big deal. And it just seemed like to me, what's happened with Caballero, like basically his entire career, is they've been trying to find some ways to keep it at arm's length, knock him off or whatever, and they just can't seem to do it. Like, and after he beat Chisora, I mean, I guess it's just like people wanting to avoid him because he's a no name with one random win, like like high risk, low reward guy. But as you build up and stuff like that, you start to wonder if, when there's really only one guy at the end of the day who's holding the titles, yeah, I know, Wardley, whatever, but it starts to kind of look like maybe they are trying to make it so that they don't have to fight him. Like, there might be something about this guy, it's just, no matter how great somebody is, there's always a style that will give them a hard time. It's just, and sometimes it's something that you don't expect whatsoever. And that's my curiosity with Caballero. My trouble, like, Atoma is a young guy that has a whole lot going for him, and he could have what it takes to beat a guy like Usyk, but I don't want to see his confidence get derailed in taking that test too early. But outside of that, just like broadly looking, Caballero's the best opponent for Usyk. He's like the only guy who has something where I'm like,
I agree,
this could do it. But like, and not like I'm saying it will. I'm saying it makes it more interesting for me than most fights.
I think it was him and Parker in the running. Frank is desperate to just pull all the money off Usyk he can. He had the 2 Fury fights. Now he's trying to push Wardley. He had the 2 Dubois fights. He's got hold of Caballero. He's desperate to just keep on lining up these guys against Usyk and picking up all the Usyk money.
The rumor.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know whether that'll happen. But I mean, Hamed is mentioned in the chat, and this is an interesting one actually. about DAZN pushing the Lawrence Okoli angle. I don't know why anybody would want to push that. I mean, they're obviously just trying to get Okoli some kind of payday. I don't want to see him fight Cabby. I don't want to see Okoli fight anybody. He fought Ebenezer Tete in his last fight. Why on earth are DAZN pushing this crap?
I hate it. Like, they just like try to kill time basically at the end of the day, and maybe protect some guys, or they just don't think they can make enough off of somebody. They want to give somebody a stepping, whatever it is. But like, some of this stuff pisses me off. And like, what really like when I look at Kakachi getting the shot against Jazz Dickens, who is just elevated, and just whatever that is. And I think Kakachi is probably going to be too much for Jazz Dickens at the end of the day. But what does that put us into again? The same situation we were in at 126, where they just find every way they fucking can to pass off title from British fighters to each other and shit like that, and not make it about the rankings, not make it about the best fighting the best. They make it into a regional economic.
Hey. Don't be calling Anthony Kakachi British, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. He's an Irish lad. You're part of the world. I'm sorry. They'll keep it in your area of the world before everything erupts into sectarian violence, at which point we'll have the title.
Bit of an 800-year backstory to that one, Matty.
Sorry.
Don't start him, Rob.
I'm sorry for offending you. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
I'm only looking for something interesting in that story.
Again, Rob, you guys got the cores, so you just fucking deal with everything else. All right, count your goddamn blessings.
Yeah, no, I'm jousting, obviously. But yeah, that's
when I mentioned the cores, I bet you are jousting.
Like a bit of gym core though, Rob. He's got some interesting ideas, hasn't he?
He has some good. He makes a lot of good points.
Yeah, I know. We should get him on here.
Oh, wouldn't it be amazing?
More so when I say that, and I misspoke on that, I'm talking about like promoters finding it, and we're going to find a way to keep it in this area with these fighters, rivalries local across a small sea, perhaps, but it's going to be that kind of shit.
Well, if they would do that, that would be a good thing, Matty. But like Nice One says, why can't we just see Toma Okoli? That would be a nice local sort of domestic dust up. Winner stays on. Why can't we just see them two fight each other? If what you're saying would be true,
do you want to know honestly why? If I was a Toma's promoter, why I wouldn't put him in with the Okoli is not the fact that I wouldn't think he would beat Lawrence Okoli and potentially do it handily. It's that tremendous possibility with Lawrence Okoli where he kind of fights the way that Lawrence Okoli fights, sucks the energy out of the room, which really could inhibit that upward trajectory of the young fighter to no fault of his own.
Yeah, remember Isaac Chamberlain fight? We talked to death on this pod with Ozzy and all the Matty Askin retired after fighting Okoli. He destroys people.
He's just like, I don't want to do
That's a good point,
anymore.
actually. If you want some juice taken out of your career, maybe a Toma should keep away from him, actually.
Yeah, and it's just like, and at this point, like, I don't think Okoli has enough.
I don't think Okoli could stay away from a Toma. I think that'd be search and destroy. Be domestic dust up, domestic death match. He'd fucking kill
you grab him though, Rob, man. Yeah. The tentacles are going to grab Itoma.
You got to give Itoma credit that he has that really unique ability to punch while moving backwards that a lot of guys don't have the pop, and he might be able to get that guy when he's reaching in for him and just.
Can he punch when someone's got their arms wrapped around him though, like Stretch Armstrong, Matty?
Well, isn't that what CBS did to him? Is they were in close and he was just kind of landing those short hooks and he just like take him like just kind of bust him in the ear.
His knee at the end, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't like that for Itoma. I think there's some better fights for him out there. The one fight that I wish that they should honestly get done. Maybe not the next fight. Let them each get one more that's a step towards each other. But let's get Richard Torres Jr. in there with him. I think that's a fantastic eliminator. Young guys, both of them skilled in their own ways. One clearly more than the other, I think. But clear the deck out a little bit here.
Isn't Torres in an eliminator with
Frank Sanchez?
I think they've been ordered to fight, haven't they? Because Dubois pulled out.
You wonder what Dubois is going to do now.
Don't know. Whatever
I
his
think
dad
that was,
tells
I
him.
think that was a, and people might say, "Oh, you're just a big Don Charles fan." I think it was a huge mistake in him leaving Don Charles. Like that was absolutely ridiculous to try to put that defeat on him when you're partying with, with your dad's friends earlier in the day. That's fucking ridiculous. Like you guys made some of your own choices. And what's the other one? Crocker left his trainer. Who do you leave for who on that one? He left
Billy Nelson for another
yeah.
guy whose name I can't remember.
So, and you want to talk about being particularly fucking stupid, and it probably being something to do with money and greed and the contract with your trainer and percentage and all that shit. You come back after being lucky as shit to get the W in one of the craziest ends of a fight that I remember in recent memory. Your trainer gets with you, completely switches stuff around, give you a totally new game plan. You win that rematch. Nobody sees you doing it. You're like 6-7 to 1 underdog in that fight or something like that.
I agree.
And you're like, oh, let's dump him. What the fuck are you talking about? Like that is just pure arrogance. And based on that alone, I like Lewis Crocker could be a nice guy, but as far as that goes and what he did to Billy Nelson,
he's not.
that's wrong. And I hope you lose your next fight because of it. Fuck you.
Hang on, I was asleep there. What did Lewis Crocker do to Billy Nelson?
He
Well,
dumped him.
He left him.
Sacked him off.
He switched.
Told
trainers.
him it took him as far as he could and got rid of him.
Surely not.
But there's situation
Yeah.
that when Crocker's got a world title now, so you're performing at the elite level in one of the original 7 weights. Fighters need experienced guys around them. They need really tuned in trainers that have been there, understand fight week, understand what it takes to get over the line, navigate through world title fights. I think that's a huge mistake from Crocker. If not Billy Nelson, you need someone that's been there. And the new fellow he's got, and I hope he has a great career as a boxing trainer, but he ain't there yet. And I think that's a big
Who's he
mistake
gone
from
to?
Crocker. I wouldn't be doing the fella justice. I don't know his name, Rob. I've never.
Do you remember the guy's name, Steve?
Well, here's my thoughts on it. I obviously think it depends.
Oh, sorry,
on who
Rob. It's Hosaifa Iqbal. He trains. What do you call the kid? Kurt Walker and someone else, I think.
Gotcha.
It's not enough, Steve.
See,
it's not enough.
I wondered was there a bit of jeopardy for Donovan in the second fight, in that he dominated the first fight so much that Crocker was going to make an adjustment, and he actually did make an adjustment. He went and boxed on it and waited on Donovan, and made him punch first and countered him beautifully. And so maybe this Iqbal has been whispering in the air hole, as as the other trainers have said, and maybe they devised that themselves and Billy was there. I don't know, like I'm completely imagining this scenario, but I'm wondering, because if Billy Nelson's come up with that game plan and worked on that with him, and then they've implemented it and he's won a world title off it, seems very fucking harsh to get rid of him.
You're right,
So
Rob,
I don't know.
agree.
Maybe there's a money aspect or something. He could be cutting them out. Fucking that's boxers. I mean, I guess it's a good segue into this. I haven't seen it. I don't plan on watching it really. This giant movie, the Nazim Hamid story. Apparently, now I haven't seen it again, so some of the listeners can correct me. But apparently, it makes Brendan Ingle. It shows Brendan Ingle in not a great light, and a lot of the fighters that were in the gym have kind of come out since the film has been released to say that wasn't the case. Like, it was Nas who was in the wrong. He was chasing the money, yada yada. So you can all draw. None of us were there. I suppose you can draw your own conclusions. But sometimes fighters, when they get that kind of earning opportunity, or the big earning opportunity, they don't really want to give up that extra percent, that way, when you're paying everybody else and you see what you have left after tax and that. Like, so maybe it's a money decision too, but either way, I wouldn't be a fan of that from Crocker, getting rid of Billy Nelson. And Billy Nelson, in fairness to him, right, he is he gets a lot of stick in everything on the pod sometimes, and he's outspoken on Twitter and everything, and he gets a lot of pelters and he has to wear it, but he deserved a massive amount of credit as well, and having a world champion in his camp. And you would have liked to seen him get the chance to ride that out into the sunset. Like, I think that's a strange move from Crocker.
I'll tell you this about Billy Nelson. If you want to think about him as a trainer, he is able to, out of the basics of boxing, get the most out of guys who at the eye test are not that fantastic looking. He's able to take some guys that are some not like ordinary fighters, but are pretty good fighters and make them better than the sum of their parts. I think that's what Billy does, and he's done a good job with it. What he did with Ricky Burns was incredible. I mean, there's nothing about Ricky Burns that is particularly spectacular, but he made it effective for a good run of title fights.
That's a good point. And I wonder as well, Matty, he rubs people up the wrong way, but maybe he's one of those mouthpiece trainers who kind of like protects the fighter by sort of going out and talking shit and creating that kind of barrier between them and the media. Could be wrong.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's, some guys they understand the role that they're supposed to play. And and Nelson very well could be that kind of guy. So,
and I think this guy Iqbal is based in Adam Booth's gym in London. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I remember Crocker. I think he did a few pads with Booth between whenever he left his previous trainer. He was with D. Walsh in Belfast. I'm not sure if he went with anybody else, but he went around a few trainers, Adam Booth included, and that just wasn't the style for him. Now, this Iqbal could implement a completely different style, but it found to me like going up to Scotland to Billy Nelson, it kind of reset his career. They got on well together, seemingly. They spoke to, it was a good kind of cultural similarities between them. It kind of just seemed to work.
What have they got in common? I wonder, Steve.
Well, I suppose I'm sort of doing a little bit of a dance around here, aren't I? But you know what I mean? Like, I don't think going to these flash boys in London is kind of going to suit Crocker. I think he'd been better off with Nelson and all the things that go with it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find out. You find out real quick, next fight kind of stuff. So anyhow, want to wrap this one up with with just a preview of a rematch that's coming up this coming Friday. And that's going to be between Alexis Rocha and Raul Curiel. Their first fight, I think it was in December of 24, it would have been. And it was a fantastic fight. One of those fights that would have been, like you call it like an honorable mention for fight of the year. It's not going to be fight of the year, but nonetheless, it's like on that list. Boxing fans, you should watch this one. I thought the draw on the first one was probably pretty fair. I think I might have edged it to Curiel 7-5. But it is. I expect this one could potentially be another good firefight between these guys. Curiel, he's a former Mexican Olympian. It's still moving up in the pro game. And Rocha's been there for a while. Been in some good fights. I think I remember him didn't he knock out Blair Cobbs? I think I remember. Guy with the goofy fucking hair. This fight, I expect it to be another good one. Steve, do you happen to remember this one from almost basically last year? I think about 13 months ago.
Yeah, I certainly do remember it. I can't believe it was that long ago. When you said December 2014, I thought surely not.
24.
24.
It wasn't that long ago.
No, it definitely wasn't that long ago. That's how washed I am. No, I can't believe it was even at the end of 24 though, Matty. It seems like it was more recent than that, but it warrants a rematch. The first one was an excellent fight. Rocha, as you mentioned, has been around the block, got outboxed by Rashidi Ellis, came back with a string of wins, knocked out Blair Cobbs, and then got knocked out by Santillan in a real good sort of dust-up. And Golden Boy have stuck with him, which is a good thing in itself. They haven't stuck with every fighter over their time. I remember Andrew Cancio winning a world title, then getting beaten in his first defense and unceremoniously dropped by Oscar. But they've stuck by Rocha. He's a nice guy. He sells a lot of tickets. He's got an exciting style. He's just a level below the world class. And Curiel, this fight kind of came out the blue a little bit because he's an Olympian, as you mentioned. He was banging people out for fun. We were wondering when he was going to step up, and he almost felt like a young prospect, but he's actually 30. And all of a sudden, putting these two guys together made sense. And the fight was brilliant. I can't remember exactly the ebbs and flows off the top of my head, but I think Rocha might have got a good start and Curiel maybe came on late or vice versa, something like that. But they were perfectly matched. Everyone was happy afterwards. I remember the post-fight interview. Rocha was like, yeah, he's a good fighter. I don't argue with the draw. Let's do it again. Curiel was the same. He's a good fighter. I don't argue with the draw. Let's do it again. There was no beef. They were just like, yeah, let's make it happen. And Oscar has delivered in timely fashion. 13 months later, it's finally happening. So bring it on. Rocha's the experienced guy. Curiel could have a bit more in the tank. Could be another draw, Matty. Get your money on it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if on that one, if it's running like, normally the draws are 16-1 or better. This might be getting into the 12-1 with the previous, but
they're well matched. Yeah.
And I think the first, I don't know if this one is over. I got to see if this was over 10 or 12. I think their first
12.
one was over 12 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, both 12 rounders. That's what we need. It separates them, doesn't it? Separates the men from the boys. A couple of 114s, absolutely spot on. Ruling out the 116, 112 to Curiel. I think this will be another close fight, and it's definitely got to be a 12 rounder. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so looking forward to this. It's a little bit of an empty week, but after this, trust me, it's going to get pretty hot. Justin, you've been so peaceful and quiet there in the corner, probably just nursing that aching back and leg of yours. Give you the final word here on Curiel and Rocha.
I can't add anything. Steve summed it up. I mean, it's as good as the first one. Then, if it's better than the first one, it'll definitely be fight of the year. But I got nothing else to add.
Yeah, if it's better than the first one, you better hold on to your freaking seats. It's going to be something else. So, yeah.
It's hard to follow Steve with his great insight and knowledge and how he breaks down the fight. So
it's almost like he was a professional at it or something.
True.
Yeah, right.
So, but anyhow, it's been a good one today. Not as long as usual. We're still working into it a little bit. But again, the it'll get a little bit hotter here coming up. We're going to have Shakur against Tio at the end of the month. And we're going to have not one, not two, but at least three nutters on the ground in New York City for that one. And we'll see if we get any stories from the road. We'd like to
lying on the ground.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, we would like to thank Jason Chuckwu for timely making it in the last few minutes. Sorry we didn't have another hour for you, Jason. That's got to be a great disappointment with your effort to find your way here. But next week is another week, and it'll be another episode of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. So for Justin, Steve, Rob, and Dez, I've been your host, Matt DiGianardo. You folks have a wonderful week ahead. See you next time.